Hi everybody, welcome to my channel, Sewscape. My name is Carly, and today I'm going to be doing my first ever episode of Burda for beginners. So I started sewing Burda about 2 years ago. I started off with a Burda Easy subscription so I could get used to tracing patterns instead of just cutting them straight out of a pack. And then after about 6 months of using Burda Easy, I switched over, I took the plunge and decided I was ready to do the Burda style. So in Burda Style magazine, you have the patterns all nested together. So it's a little confusing to look at, a little daunting at first, but once you get the hang of it, you will never sew another way. It streamlines the process. It makes things so customizable because you can make the alterations straight from tracing, and you can change seam allowances. You truly get to understand seam allowances. So you see where companies are adding in extra room. So the pattern we're making comes from the July issue of Burda Style, and it is this 121 blouse here. So there are 3 pattern pieces, piece 1, 2, and 3, a front bodice, a back bodice, and a sleeve. So let's get tracing this out and adding some seam allowance. It says we need 1 separating zipper and a special presser foot and some ribbon. And now we're tracing out those pattern pieces there and adding our 5/8 of an inch seam allowance around each one. So the fabric I'm using today is a couple of thrifted placemats. I found these beautiful hand-sewn placemats at the thrift store, and I'm going to turn them into a lovely blouse. So we're going to upcycle this. I was so happy I found 2. At first I only saw 1 and I didn't know what I could make from it, and then tucked in there was a second one. And this is a beautiful seam ripper my aunt just bought me. Isn't that lovely? Personalized with my name. So gorgeous. And now I'm working on seam ripping all those edges so we can salvage as much of this fabric as possible. This was the turned up hem that the previous maker of these had put in. And now I'm ironing out all those edges, getting rid of any holes in the fabric from those seams. Now let's cut out those pattern pieces. And here I am making some bias tape from the leftover fabric that goes around the neckline instead of using purchase bias tape. If you don't have enough fabric and you're really squeezing it out, use purchase bias tape, but I had a little bit extra, and I'll just attach these 2 pieces together and that will be my neckline bias tape. And now we're using our handy dandy bias tape maker to run the fabric through and then press on the other side of it with the iron. So pattern piece number 1 is the front piece. So you have to make sure you trace both darts in your size. So just follow the line that correlates to your sizing. And then there is a notch at the armhole to let you know which side is the front, and the side that has no notch will be the back. And then there's a waist marking here. And then as far as the seam numbers go, there's a 1 in this corner letting us know that the first seam we're gonna sew is gonna be the shoulder seam. And then there's a 2 right here that's gonna let us know that the side seams are the second thing to sew. So pattern piece number 2 is the back piece. There are no notches on this one. So there is a zipper marking, so we add a seam allowance here because we'll need something to attach the zipper to. So there is a number 1 up in this corner letting us know once again that this is the first seam we're gonna sew. A 2 right in the side seam here letting us know that's the second thing we're gonna sew. And then piece number 3 is the sleeve piece. So on this piece there are 2 notches. There's one for the center of the shoulder, so this is gonna attach to where the shoulder seam is on the top, and then there is a marking letting us know that this is the front side, and this will match up with the notch on the front of the bodice. So the numbers that we mark on this one is a 3, letting us know that this will be the 3rd seam that we sew. So right after we sew up the side seams, we will sew up these sleeve seams. And then there's a 4 along this seam here, letting us know that the last seam that we will sew will be attaching the sleeve into the bodice. So step 1 is we're gonna sew the darts into the bodice. So we have those marked, so I'm just going to pin our dart. So there's 1 on each side and then 1 coming from the waist. So we'll pin those and we'll get them sewed, or we'll sew them. So now we're going to press these darts. So this is the top. So on these side darts here, we're gonna press those down. And then on these length, or the darts that come from the waist, we're gonna press them towards the center. Now the next step is to pin right sides together, the fronts and the backs. So this part that's open here, that's where the zipper is gonna go. So I have the shoulder seams pinned, right sides together, shoulder seam pinned, right side together, and then the side seams pinned, right side together. So I'm gonna sew those up, and then I'm going to finish the edge that will be attached to the zipper. So that center back seam, I'm just gonna use my serger and go through it, but if you don't have a serger, you can do a zigzag stitch going over the edge of it, or you can use some pinking shears, or you can use an overlocking stitch on a regular sewing machine. So I'm gonna sew up those seams and then serge that edge, and then we can get onto the zipper. I forgot to mention, we're gonna finish that edge with the seamer that the zipper is gonna go on but I'm also gonna do the same to all the seams that we just sewed. So the shoulder seams and then the side seams too. So now that I have all those edges serged, I'm gonna press the shoulder seams to the back and then the side seams also to the back. So just before we get started working on the zipper, I'm gonna neaten this edge, the back zip edge, and then I'm gonna also serge the bottom edge, just because I'm only gonna fold this up one time. So if I was folding it up 2 times, then I wouldn't have to finish the edge, but since we're only doing one little turn up, the inside will just be serged, and that'll stop the fraying. I have my hem pressed up with the finished, that serged side just pointing up. So I just did a 5/8 of an inch hem on mine. So with the zipper, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to line this up with where this edge is folded. So the bottom of the hem right here, I want this zipper to line up right with where that's gonna sit. So I'm gonna pin that there. And so I'm gonna check my measurement all the way up and just line this up along the seam line and see where this hits with the zipper that I purchased. So this hits right here. So it overhangs by about, including the top of the zipper teeth here, about 2 inches. So I'm gonna make a marking on the neck hole. I only added a 1 centimeter seam allowance because with bias tape, that's what you use. So you normally trim away the excess, but I saved myself a step by only adding 1 centimeter allowance there. So I don't have to cut away the 2/8. Oh my goodness, the 1/4 inch or whatever. So I'm going to make a marking on my zipper here, because then we are gonna pull some teeth. So we line this up, make sure it's all right. And so for this to be right there. So I have my zipper marked here. So I'm going to pull the teeth with some pliers, everything about 5/8 of an inch above here, and then I'll just cut the top off. So the tool that I'm gonna use are these bad boys right here. I'll show you quite, oh, they're a little rusty. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. They are my husband's. So I believe these are actually wire cutters opposed to pliers, but this seemed to do the trick the last time I was pulling zipper teeth. So I'm gonna start off by just cutting away what we don't need. Beautiful. So now there are less teeth to pull. Work smarter, not harder, people. So I'll zoom you in so you can see what I'm doing. So the zipper I'm using is a heavy duty zipper, so it's a bit of a pain in the butt to pull the teeth, but I'm just using the tip of the wire cutters to cut where the teeth connect to the fabric and then pulling it off. If you have a less heavy duty zipper, it's way easier, but this one gave me a hard time. But we came and we conquered. Now I have the zipper half separated. I've actually never sewn a zipper that didn't connect at the bottom, so this will be a learning experience for the both of us. Sometimes, even if you've been sewing for a while, it's great to do something that is beginner. So this is the right side of the zipper teeth are touching the right side of the fabric with both kind of seam allowance edges lined up. So I'm gonna baste along this whole edge here, and then I'm gonna flip this over like this so that the zipper teeth are sticking out this way, and then I'm gonna top stitch this edge on both sides here, right down to the bottom. Now that we have our zipper installed, then we are going to be doing our bias bound neckline. So if you're following the directions in the magazine as you're sewing along, you might notice that the steps that I did this are backwards than how they are in the magazine. In the magazine, you're supposed to sew on the bias binding, turn it to the inside, hand stitch it, leaving the sides open for the zipper, then install the zipper, and then hand stitch the bias binding over. But I feel like because they had us top stitch the zipper down, might as well top stitch the rest, you know, save us some hand sewing. And that way I tie in more of the kind of white theme, because I have the white background on the zipper, and then I have the white ribbon that's gonna attach to the back of the top. So I feel like with the white thread top stitching, it just makes sense. Plus it saves us a bit of time. As an easy beginner sewing pattern, I feel like there shouldn't be too much hand sewing, but maybe that's just my opinion. So I'm gonna attach the bias binding that we made to this neckline, and then we will stitch that down with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. And now that we have that whole neckline top stitch, let me show you. There we go, very lovely. The zipper does up. It looks great up the back there, super cute. And at the bottom here, I matched it up pretty good, not perfect. Oh wait, where is it? Let me show you. So I matched it up pretty good there. So now I have those sleeves all pressed, the hem allowance pressed up, and I'm gonna stitch that with a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I'm just gonna slide this part off of my sewing machine. Makes it nice and easy for doing sleeves. And whenever I'm top stitching, I like to set my stitch lengths to 3. I don't know if you can see that there. I find the stitches just look neater, and if you have to pull anything out, at least they're a bit further apart. So now we're gonna set in those sleeves. So I'm going to turn this inside out, the main bodice piece. And then we have the front facing forward. I'm going to slip the sleeve inside the shirt that's inside out. So the right sides of this are touching the right sides of this. And we'll make sure that our notches and our seams are matching. So I have my whole armhole pinned and I'm gonna go through and sew it from the inside. I had to ease mine in a little more than usual because I only sewed the sleeve seam with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, just because it is a petite pattern and my arms are a little outside of the size range. So I'm just giving myself a little more wiggle room. And so I'm gonna go through and sew that now, just trying to get as few little tucks in the fabric as possible. I feel like because I had kind of an extra 1/2 inch to ease in, this would have been better to do a gathering stitch, but let's see how we get on. So after we sewed those sleeves in, I just serged the edge of it there. Oh, focus. Good, I serged that edge there. And now all there is to do is press those sleeves, and then we are going to tie a satin ribbon to this pull tab here. And that's just gonna make it easier to get on and off ourselves, because this is a separating zipper, which is amazing for curly hair people like me, so you don't have to put the shirt over your head. But we'll see how difficult it is. I'll do a try-on test for you right after this. As I was getting ready to try it on, I realized I hadn't even hemmed the bottom. We had folded it up before we did the zipper, but we hadn't sewed it in yet. So last step, sew the hem. So now the last step is I have 0.7 of a meter of ribbon here. In the magazine it says you can use bias tape or cord or something like that, but I thought to tie in more of the white details to do ribbon. So I'm gonna cut this ribbon on a 45-degree angle here to kind of stop some of the fraying. And then I'm gonna go over it with some fray check. It looks like my scissors might need to be sharpened. If your ribbon wasn't white, what you could do is you could take a lighter to it and just smush that down, but I just don't wanna lose any of the color. So I'm just gonna use some fray check on this edge, and then we will loop it onto our top over here. So now I'm gonna take those ends and I'm gonna put them through the loop of my zipper here, pull those through and have this loop here. I'm just gonna pull this through the loop and attach it like that. So we have this little cute tie here. And so we're gonna put it on. We'll see what the ribbons are looking like at that length. We might take them shorter and then just do the same thing, cut it on a 45-degree and then fray check those edges. The way this top came out, the length is beautiful for wearing untucked. The only thing I would change about it is if I wear it tucked into things, it does kind of want to come out, and that's because this is a petite pattern and I don't necessarily fall under the category of petite in every way, shape, and form. So I would just lengthen it by 1 inch, but wearing it untucked, it is perfect and it's easy enough to get on and off myself. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.